Well, hi, welcome to Senior Travel Adventures. I'm Debbie. I'm so excited to have this show and share all these fun things. We talk about travel tips, tricks, safety, and then we share our trips with each other where I bring in different guests and they talk about the great travels that they've taken. And then we have our segment in our backyard where I talk about travel locally and in the state of California. So thank you for joining me today and stay tuned. Welcome to Senior Travel Adventures. I'm Debbie, and with me today is Monique Kiefner, who is kind enough to come on the show and share her recent travels to South America. And I actually have Monique coming on another show to talk about Alaska, but again, today we're going to talk about South America. So, hi, Monique. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on this and explain my trip to South America. It was wonderful.
Great. So tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, I know for the audience, you are a travel agent, so you do get to take a fair number of trips.
Yes, that is correct. I've been a travel agent for the last 10 years. And it's just been amazing to be able to travel to all these places, just see things that I have never seen before, meet amazing people. Just some of these countries have the friendliest people, and the culture is just amazing to see. And it's so different from what we're used to here in America when I go overseas to different places like Budapest and South America. There's just so many areas that are amazing to go to.
The world is so big. I've been doing a fair amount of traveling, but just for the last few years, and my list is very long, as I've told you. But I just find it amazing to go to these places. So let's some of the things I saw on your trip, and we're going to share some of your pictures as we talk. So you started in Buenos Aires, is that correct?
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. And then so you went to I see this great picture of a big sign that says Chile. So that must have been on your two, and we're going to show a picture of this statue. Can you tell us a little bit about the statue?
That one was actually in Puerto Monte, Chile. So that was towards the end of the trip.
Okay.
That was the
Okay.
whale tail that was outside of the port where the ship was. After you come out of the little town, it was right there before you get back on the ship.
Okay. And one thing, I talk a lot about solo travel. So as a travel agent, do you normally go solo or do you travel? Was this a solo trip?
Yes. Yeah, I do a lot of solo traveling just because my husband works a lot and my kids work. So I end up going alone, which is, I take a lot of groups. So I'm alone in my cabin, but I meet up with the group that I'm either hosting or traveling with. It is fun when you're traveling with a group of people.
Right, right. And so that's why I talk about it on the show because a lot of us want to travel, but we're like, well, we don't have someone to go with, but it's really fun to do it alone. But it's also fun to be with a group. So I do it, I've done it both. I just came back from a group and it was great fun. So the next thing I saw that you shared with me was this great old ship.
Mhm.
What was this history on this ship?
That ship was actually Puerto Arenas. So that was um, I did a tour, like a city tour, and they took us to that. And there's a couple different ships there. There was a picture, I think, there's a light, and that was part of the ship as
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
Um, just the history of it being a port city and how many ships came in.
Well, and then the next part, which was really cool for me, is all these wonderful pictures of penguins we're about to show. So you got to, one of my things that I really want to do is go see some penguins in their natural habitat. So
Mhm.
you have some amazing pictures here that we're showing. Tell me a little bit about your interaction with the penguins.
Well, we went to Stanley, the Falkland Islands is where we saw all the penguins. And the penguins that you're seeing, I went to two different locations for those. The one location where there's a smaller amount of penguins is actually, I took a city bus, and that was free to go over to do that. And that was in Gypsy Cove, actually, is where those little cluster penguins were. And you kind of walk around and you see the penguins and you see beautiful coastline And then the second one where you see the bigger cluster of penguins, that one was at Pebble Cove, and that was a tour I did from the ship. And that took about 30 minutes to get from the port to get to that location to see all the penguins. And you just walk around. They actually have a little, not a fence, but like a string that kind of separates you from the penguins, just telling you you can't go in out inside of the string.
Okay.
So, but the penguins, of course, walk outside of the string and go where they want to go. But they
Right.
just want you to keep a safe distance from them so you're not interfering with them.
Right. So the penguins don't care about that string, so that's okay.
No,
Um,
that they could care less.
yeah, right. That's just the human string. Um,
It is.
so then I saw some pictures of some glaciers, which I was really surprised, although I don't know why, because I know that part of South America, it tends to be cold. And we've
Yes,
got a picture of you wearing a coat, so it looks like it might have been a little breezy.
it
But
was
let's
very
talk
cold.
about those glaciers.
Yeah, towards the, I guess, end of the cruise, like day 9 and day 10, we did scenic cruising, which was through the glaciers. We went through the Chilean Ford and the Cerramento Channel and the Beagle Channel. And that's where you see all the glaciers. And it was very cold. I didn't bring gloves, so my hands were probably, they were numb. But I wanted to stay out there to get as many pictures as we could. And we just basically crawl along. And at some point, they will stop the ship and just turn it so everybody gets the same view of the glacier. So it was amazing. It was beautiful. Some people saw whales and dolphins. I didn't see them. I just missed them somehow. But there was dolphins and whales out there. But it was beautiful,
You
beautiful.
know, the glaciers, and we're gonna, like I said, we're gonna talk about Alaska in a future episode, but the glacier still has been one of my most amazing things that I've seen was the glaciers in real life. And the fortunate thing is we don't have it's great to go to South America, but we can go just to Alaska and still see glaciers. We don't, so I would encourage my audience to go see glaciers while you can,
Yes.
because they are just pretty magnificent in general. So, what was your highlight of this trip?
Um, I guess obviously the penguins were a highlight just because you get to see them in their natural habitat. You get to see them not behind a glass, which I'm used to from SeaWorld, right? So, and I mean, there was a cluster of mamas and babies, and the mama was feeding the baby, and that was just like amazing to watch, and just how they interact with each other.
So the total trip, how many days was it? And you went on, where did the cruise begin? Where did you start cruising from?
We started in Buenos Aires, so you would have to fly into Buenos Aires. I'm in San Diego, so it was about a 15-hour flight. By the time we get to New York, from there you go into Buenos Aires. And it was a 14-day cruise. So we started in Buenos Aires and then we ended in Santiago, Chile.
Okay. And then flew home from there. Well, that's
And then I flew
wonderful.
home from there. I didn't stay any extra days, but of course people can, and some of them did. But I didn't really get to see a whole lot of Santiago, Chile, so I do want to go back so I can see more of that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens on a lot of the tours, as you know. Sometimes it's a taste of or the highlights of the area.
Mhm.
And if you really like a certain location, then you might want to plan a trip to go back to see a
Mhm.
specific location. On a recent tour that I took, I saw so many things and it was wonderful. But then I was like, well, I wish I had more time. And obviously on a cruise, you're going to go where you have so much time in port and so many excursions, and then you're back on the
Mhm.
ship. And there's so many good things about cruising as well, though, because you unpack once and that's really a big advantage too.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
that sounds like a fabulous trip, and I'm so glad that you came on to share this with us. And I look forward to our next conversation about Alaska. So
Yes. Well,
thank you
thank you
for
so
joining
much
me.
for having me. It was a wonderful trip, and I do highly recommend everybody doing that. and actually doing the extension to Antarctica.
So again, thanks a lot, and I'll talk to you soon.
Well, thank you so much. Have a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, hello there. Welcome to Senior Travel Adventures. I am excited because today I have with me Bob Schmalle, and we go way back. We actually went to college together a long time ago, and Bob is a wonderful photographer and a professor at Fresno City College. And I've been looking at his pictures online for many years, and so when I saw his latest batch from Switzerland, I contacted him to be on my show. So, hi, Bob. Thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, you do quite a bit of travel too, right?
I do. At least 2 or 3 times a year, I try and get away to go someplace distant.
Distant. Well, let's see. I've seen quite a few of your pictures, so I know you've gone to some really great places. So tell me a little bit. I actually just came back from Switzerland, so that also made me interested in all these wonderful shots that you took. So
Yeah, so I just came back from Switzerland a week ago. I spent 2 weeks in a area called the Jungfrau region.
okay.
In and around a city called Interlaken, taking pictures up in the Alps and around Interlaken, around a nearby city called Thun,
Thun. Okay.
and lakes up in the area and that sort of thing.
All right. So, looking at some of these pictures right now, I see this Lauterbronn. Is that
Lauterbrunnen.
Lauterbrunnen, and that looks just like something out of a movie.
So Lauterbrunnen is a valley with sheer cliffs on 2 sides going up to about 8,000 feet. Lauterbrunnen itself, I think, is about 2,500. And so there are some amazing shots. There are waterfalls falling into the valley. And so it's a great, I actually spent about 2 days there shooting.
I was obviously the thing that I think most of us here in the U.S. think of is the movie Heidi, and The Sound of Music when you think about these beautiful shots and things. Now you're a skier, but you didn't get to go skiing there, right?
No, I actually thought about it. There was skiing way high up off the glacier at an area called Jungfrau Jack, which I actually have a picture of. But I didn't do it.
So when you did get there, though, was there still a lot of snow, though, in the Alps? I mean, not on the
so
ground.
they had actually had a late snow. Actually, they had more snow than I was planning. There were places I wanted to go that I actually couldn't go because there was too much snow. They had actually had a late snow that year, and so there was a lot more snow. There was one lake I went to where I was planning on shooting higher up than I did, and I couldn't get there because there was an avalanche warning in that area.
Oh my goodness, my goodness.
I took lower shots.
Wow.
Yeah, so at the higher elevations, pretty much from about 8,000 feet up, there was still a lot of snow. Well, if you want to see a good example of that, you could go to Lattenbrunner halfway up.
Okay.
It gives a good example of where the snow starts.
Okay.
Down in the valley in Lattenbrunner, it's virtually straight ahead spring. But then if you look at the mountains in the background there, beginning about 8,000 feet, and they go up to about 12,000.
Okay.
It's snow covered.
Okay. So one of the things, so how far is like Interlaken and those places from Zurich? About an hour?
2 hours.
2 hours?
Interlaken's 2 hours.
Okay.
You can do a day trip from Zurich, or you could stay in Interlaken and make a day trip to Zurich or Bern, or my wife and I actually went to Montrose for a day.
Okay. Well, I really did love Switzerland, but it's a little pricey there, I'm going to say. The Swiss franc is not as good to the dollar as some places. In fact, one of the tours I was on, the bus driver or the tour guide told us that a lot of the people who live in Zurich and some of the small villages, they actually go to Germany to shop because it's less expensive. But there is nothing like seeing it for yourself. I mean, and that's kind of the thing that I think about all the places in the world. You know, you can see the pictures, and your pictures do. My pictures don't do this justice like yours do, but I try. Yeah. So let's talk about a few other things while you're here with me. Let's, because Zurich was and Switzerland, these are beautiful pictures that we're showing right now, but you've got so many other things. So tell me a little bit about some of these other things. You went to Paris. When was that?
Oh, gosh, the last time I was in Paris was probably 7, 8 years ago. I've been there a number of times shooting photos. Like I said, I mean, every summer I try and get away.
Yeah.
Usually to Europe, although I've gone different places. I went to Dubai.
Yeah,
one
that's
time.
beautiful. That we'll show that on the screen.
And then I've also I went to China. That was an interesting trip. So the shot of the Arc de Triomphe, that was an interesting shot. I actually had to stand out in the middle of the street for about, well, there were a couple of other photographers with me, so we all braved it. If you look at the shot, we've got cars racing by us on all sides.
Yeah.
But we got, there was this great shot with the sun going down and the flag hanging down from the top of the Arc de Triomphe.
That's
It was a really
beautiful.
beautiful shot, so we decided to risk it and just stand there, and nobody kicked us out, so it worked out well.
No gendarme came and said, "Get the heck out of here," because they're always there. So you went to Venice, Rome, actually Iceland. When did you go to Iceland? Because I just was there last December, and I saw the Northern Lights 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, so I was in Iceland 5 years ago, as
Okay.
it was. And actually I did. My wife wasn't interested in going to Iceland, so I went to Iceland for a week to shoot photos, and I met her in Paris.
Okay.
So, yeah, and so if you look at that one shot, that's a Kirkjufell, I think.
Yes.
It's actually an extinct volcano on the north side of the island. It actually takes you about 4 hours to drive there. And that picture was actually taken at about 12:30 at night.
Oh my goodness. Well, I know.
But it was daytime.
Right. When I was there in December, it never even felt like it got really light. About 11:30 in the morning, the sun was coming up, which looked like our sunset. And then by 4 o'clock, the sun was gone.
Right.
So that would be the only thing I would tell people about going at that time of year is your daylight is really minimal. But everything we saw was so beautiful. I'm actually going to be in Banff in about a month.
Okay.
I'm going on the Rocky Mountaineer Railroad and going to Banff, and that's going to be my first time there. We'll show Banff up on the screen. You've got Italy, the Dolomites. I interviewed a gentleman on my show a couple episodes ago, and that's his next trip, is he wants to go see the Dolomites. We're going to show Austria, and we're putting those up for you. And then Cinque Terre, I told all my fans that I would curate a trip. So in April of 2025, there's a Tuscany and a Florence trip, and we're going to take a day trip to Cinque Terre.
Yeah, Italy's actually one of my most favorite places to go. There's just a lot of varied areas. I mean, in the main part of Italy, I mean, you've got Florence, you've got Rome, you've got Cinque Terre, and then when you go north, obviously you got Venice. But then once you get above Venice, you've got the Italian Alps. So if you look at that picture of Val di Funes, that's a beautiful little valley up in the Alps there with that chapel right in the middle. It's just there are gorgeous scenes like that all over.
Oh, that's cool. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're still going to talk to Bob, but we're going to talk to Bob about In Our Backyard and his photography. So stay tuned. We're back. And as mentioned, we're going to talk some more with Bob about the pictures that he's taken around California, because there is so much beauty right here in our own backyard. So some of your Yosemite shots, Bob, have just been spectacular, I have to say. Do you go there often to take pictures since it's so close?
I have at certain times. I done less lately, but it's one of the easiest places to go where you can get essentially world-class shots. And there's so many. I've got a few that are that I've incorporated here. I mean, if you look at the one with the chapel in the valley, that's actually, people seem to think that's one of their favorite shots that I've taken. I had to wade out in essentially practically waist deep snow.
Oh my goodness.
Out in the middle of the meadow on that one to get that shot. So it was an interesting experience. And then, another one of people's favorites is I've got
the tree.
The tree. It's a famous oak tree in Cook's Meadow. I think it's been in a couple of Ansel Adams pictures. I was there early in the morning, and I happened to catch the tree with the sun shining through it. So it looks like it's on fire, and then you've got the half dome in the background. So it was a great shot to get.
I think that's just spectacular too. I mean, all of them have been really, really well done. Have you ever been able to get that horseshoe with the sunset?
No,
Coming through
I
yet?
haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, that one's so popular. So, I wanted to just segue because we're showing all these beautiful, beautiful shots that you have. The San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge, and I think there's one here we're going to show of Los Angeles. I think I saw that one.
Yeah, it's the
Griffith?
mine's going blank here. Griffith Observatory.
Yes, yes.
So that if you're interested in getting that shot, it can be a little tricky. You need to go in there. You need to go there in the fall and the spring because the parking lot you're going to park at closes down at 9:00, and so if you go there in the summer, it's about an hour hike to where I took that shot. So it would. You wouldn't make it back to your car, and the cops are pretty sticklish on tagging people that stay longer than 9. But if you go in the fall or even in the winter, since it's warm in Los Angeles, you can shoot nighttime shots like that.
Yeah. LA, there's areas that you definitely, like Griffith Park is, there's a lot of fun stuff there. The observatory, by all means, while we're talking of in your backyard stuff, the Griffith Observatory is spectacular. The Getty Museum that's right there in West LA. That one has some incredible views and vistas if you get it at the right time. One thing I wanted to ask you about is, I said at the beginning of the show that, we've known each other from college from a way back when, but when did you get involved with photography and how did you fall in love and do such a great job?
That's actually a very interesting story. So about 12 years ago, my house got robbed.
Oh.
And I had some cheap photo equipment along with some other stuff. But the insurance payment came in for the stuff I needed done. And I thought, well, I always thought about buying a nice camera. And so I bought a nice camera and started taking shots. And it's been interesting. I've gained some popularity more than I thought I ever would. I've had photos in the National Geographic European travel magazine called, what is it? Vija, I think is what it's called. It's the Spanish word for travel, and I can't remember what it is. Plus, I've had articles written about me in a couple of international photo magazines. So it's been an interesting situation. And the one thing I really love to do is take photos when I'm traveling somewhere. So it's worked out well.
Well, yeah, it kind of combines two really important, enjoyable hobbies, more or less, but your hobby, photography. So people can go online, though, and buy your pictures, right?
They can. It's on robertschmalle.com.
We'll put that up at the end, so if people are interested.
I've got an entire website.
Okay, great. Because there's some absolutely spectacular pictures, not just the ones we've shown here on the show, but if you go to Bob's website, I think you're going to your mouth will be open going, wow, wow, wow. And yes, sometimes there is some photoshopping involved, but every photographer does that. It's funny because a lot of people like myself, I take pictures with my phone. I used to have a smaller, not as nice camera, but I thought, why am I doing this? Why am my pictures on my iPhone are coming out pretty good, but not always.
iPhones are pretty good. I mean, if you're just a casual photographer, they can do a good job. I mean, I got to be honest. I don't always want to carry around my big, what they would call a professional camera. It's just a nice camera.
Right.
And so I use my Galaxy phone quite a bit to take shots. and you were talking about Photoshop. I mean, you can still do a lot with just your iPhone or your Galaxy phone. You can still do a lot with post-processing to make them look really nice.
Right. And I've tried on mine, but mine never have come out anywhere close to what these look like. So I have to say that this does bode well for getting a professional camera. But like you said, I don't like to travel that heavy. So for me, having just the phone, I'll just pull it out and take it. But when you're going somewhere to take pictures, obviously you want the best equipment you can bring.
Well, yeah, and if you're interested in doing something like that, I would certainly recommend that you go talk to a good professional at a local camera store. There are some good entry level cameras you can get into for not a lot of money, and they very well may have classes at your local camera store,
right?
Where they can show you how to work it, and you probably would want to get up on some post-processing stuff too to make it look as good as you can.
Yeah, that's where I'm spending a little time right now, learning a little more about editing and all that fun stuff. It's fun to film, but you got to do something with it afterwards. So, all right. Well, another thing I just wanted to mention, one more thing. Bob is multi-talented because he also is a musician. So
I do. I do play. I was a professional musician from age 18 to about age 24. And then I decided to go back to school and become a lawyer. So I'm a lawyer and now a college professor.
Yeah,
and I still play on the side.
All right. Well, watch for Bob around town here. And, if you're listening in the Central Valley, because this is going to play in several locations, but if you're local to the Central Valley, we'll see when Bob's going to play next, because he is a really good musician, and I've enjoyed seeing him out there. So I really appreciate you coming today and taking time out of your busy day to join me. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
All righty. And we'll be right back. Thank you so much for joining me today on Senior Travel Adventures. It is such fun to do this show. And if you have a trip that you'd like to share with us, please be sure to send it to me. The email will be up on your screen, and maybe we'll see you on the show. So have a great day.